Hey YouTube, welcome back. New year is going to be upon us in a couple of weeks, which means everyone's going to be raring to go with their health and fitness goals. So I thought it'd be appropriate to start a myth busting series to make sure that you're not going to be thinking any myths that you might be aware of, or you might start hearing come the new year, that you don't think they're true and you don't get lost in the confusion of misinformation. If you do find the video helpful, please do drop a like. If you have any questions throughout, throw them down below. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Okay, so number one, muscle either turns into fat if you stop training a little bit and you maybe eat a bit more and you gain some body fat, or vice versa. Some people think you can turn fat into muscle. You can't do either of the two. Okay, muscle will not turn into fat. If you do not train for a little period of time, let's say more than a month, and you do gain a little bit of body fat, all that's happening there is that you're gaining body fat. If you haven't been training, then you have the potential to have lost muscle, potentially, but no muscle has been turned into body fat. Okay, that just hasn't happened. On the other hand, if you obviously have a bit of body fat, and then you start going to the gym and you start losing that body fat hasn't been turned into muscle. That doesn't happen either. All that's happening is you've reduced some body fat, and now you may be starting to see some muscle definition. Number two, the anabolic window. Okay, now what I mean by this is people think that you have to eat within an hour after training or 30 minutes, otherwise it will be useless. That isn't true. The anabolic window actually exists for quite a period of time after you've trained, and I'm talking hours and hours and hours. Okay, so after you've trained, don't stress about within a 30 minute to an hour window of getting some food down you. It's not that important. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Now, if you've got the time to eat an hour after training, then sure, go for it. But if you don't, and you can only eat 2, 3 hours, even 4 hours after you've trained, it's not going to be the end of the world. Okay, so anyone that's telling you have to eat between 30 minutes an hour after you train, otherwise it's pointless, is talking absolute nonsense. Number 3, certain foods or food groups will stop you from losing body fat. Just straight up incorrect. Okay, essentially you can eat what you want as long as you're in a calorie deficit and you'll still drop body fat. Now I don't suggest that because you'll probably feel like shit. It might not be the best for hunger management, for training performance, for energy, mood, but for this example, you can eat whatever you want and ensure that you're in a calorie deficit, you will still lose weight. So no food or food group is going to stop you from dropping body fat. If you do stop dropping body fat, it is simply because you're no longer in a calorie deficit. Your intake is either matching your expenditure or is higher than it, and you therefore need to reduce your caloric intake and or increase your expenditure to recreate a calorie deficit. And then lastly, number 4, high reps, tone muscle / burn fat. This isn't necessarily true. High reps will expend more calories given intensities matched between, let's say, a high rep set and a lower rep set. You will burn more calories, which could be slightly beneficial for a calorie deficit, but we're probably talking minute differences in calories here. But the actual idea of high reps burning more fat or causing muscles to become toned is just nonsense, really, in general sense. Again, like point 3, if you're wanting to burn fat, just being in a general calorie deficit is going to be the biggest rock for resulting in that. You can do more majority low reps in your training, be in a calorie deficit and still drop body fat. Secondly, getting this toned look just means getting leaner, essentially dropping body fat and then seeing the muscle mass that you have. Okay, so don't confuse these two terms, because a lot of people do. Toning is just getting leaner, essentially. And then lastly, this doesn't mean there's anything wrong with high reps. Okay, in my opinion, I'd actually vary your rep range across sets, across sessions. Okay, so you can train anywhere from 5 up to 30 reps. Okay, so maybe some exercises you're doing 5 to 10, maybe some you're doing 8 to 12, maybe some you're doing 15 to 20, maybe some you're doing 20 to 30. Okay, that's not a bad idea at all. But don't just think the higher reps you do, the more beneficial that's going to be for fat loss. So there you have it. There's 4 little bits of information you might see, or common things you might hear people say that you know are just incorrect. Hopefully that will help you a little bit come the new year. And I'm going to start a series of this where I'm going to walk through more and more. If you did find the video helpful, please do drop a like. If you have any questions, throw them down below. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.